All right, it's time for Good Vibes, and joining us once again, our transformation coach, Debbie Cox Denobe. Debbie, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Now, when I was looking at the title, I went, wow. Everybody at the coffee shop's going to be watching this one,
I hope so.
especially Coach Gano. And Kurt shakes nodding. He'll be watching. Miss Sandra's definitely going to watch.
Miss Sandra will, yes.
Igniting and sustaining attraction.
Yes.
Woo.
And
I can't wait.
We're speaking specifically
break
about
ground
relationships. Yes. Okay.
Break ground for me.
Okay. So very quickly, let's touch on the attraction that we've talked about before, which is essentially that chemical rush. It feels like a drug rush when you're physically attracted to somebody, chemically attracted to them, because we're using all of our senses when we first find a mate, so to speak. Okay. So we all know about that. There is the smell gets involved. Your first kiss plays a big part because there's like that chemical exchange visually, especially for men, taking in somebody, usually, and it will always be this way. They're visually attracted to men, are visually attracted to women who are reproductively advantageous. Like they look like
Well,
they
you
would.
got us all pegged.
And then for women, of course, there's that need that visually we are also stimulated, but there's a need more for security, safety, short-term and long-term, and is perceived safety, as we talked about before. So that part is sort of easy. There are billions of dollars being spent in helping people to be, women are enhancing those qualities, the fuller lips, the smoother, softer skin, shiny hair, right? To trick the biology of men into like, choose me, right? And then, of course, men also, they're building their muscles, right? So that safety and that security piece, they are, making money, which is a big security piece as well. So what I would really love to focus on most in this conversation, though, is how do you sustain that, right? So once you've gotten into the relationship, what typically happens, and John Gray says you can tell when you're in a restaurant who's dating and who's married, right? At a table when someone's dating, the man is singly focused. He's got all of his focus on the woman. He's got one goal. After he's climbed the mountain of dating and gotten to marriage, his attention sort of goes elsewhere, right? Now he's looking around. That's new. That's, and that's just biologically how men are built. The problem, though, is that if you are not being intentional about continuing and sustaining attraction through your relationship, it will not just automatically happen. This is like anything else. You've got to pour into it. You've got to be intentional. You've got to know how it works. Otherwise, it's a recipe for failure where attraction is concerned. And that doesn't just spell a separation in the relationship. It can actually be detrimental to health. In men, the testosterone will lower. They'll put you at higher risk for, prostate cancer and depression. And in women as well, stress, as we know, is twice as high for women, 4 times at home. And while women have proven that they can do it all, they have not proven, because of biology, that they can do it all without feeling overwhelmed and completely stressed out and damaging their health.
So they have a different X factor when it comes to stress.
Absolutely. It's an inverse experience. We're built to be to play off each other. We actually need each other quite a lot. And once you understand how the opposite sex is sort of built and how the hormones are different from yours, it actually can be a very enjoyable process, helping to continue that attraction along the way.
How long does the wham, how long is it supposed to last?
Well, it just depends, right? Because it's very driven by dopamine. So dopamine is that like, okay, what's going to happen next? It's like that mystery. So sometimes long-term relationships, long-distance relationships can sustain that dopamine hit for a longer period of time.
Not dope, folks. Not dope. Dopamine.
Although it does feel quite a lot like being on drugs, right? And so it's that feeling of like, pursuing and chasing and what's next and mystery that goes. So what happens though, again, especially, and this is something that's especially people who have strong dopamine systems. Now, and this is people who tend to succeed in life financially. So these are the people who end up making a lot of money, but then cannot relax and enjoy the things that they've actually accomplished because the dopamine system is still driving for the next thing, the next accomplishment. So they may be sitting in their beach home, tapping away on the computer, completely not present.
Trying to
and
build
taking
another
it.
beach home.
Trying to build another beach home. So you have to watch this because this is actually detrimental to relationships as well. So if you know, though, how to sustain, how to support each other in relationship, in reconciling two needs that all humans have, which is the need for connection and closeness and that need for separateness. So we're always reconciling that from the time that we're children, right? We want to be loved and snuggled on, but we want to explore the world. We want adventure, we want surprise, we want mystery, but we want connectedness, we want safety and security. So in relationship, it's about balancing those two for both men and women. And these are qualities, character qualities that if you really tap into the research around it, this is really what matters to people long term. We want to feel like we are safe and seen and known as women. We want to feel that men want to know that they're needed and that they can be, that they can solve problems, that they can, they
want to be the man.
They want to be the man, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
And the problem is that when you're stressed or tired, both men and women, and this is whether you're talking about heterosexual or homosexual, if you are in the feminine typically, if that's your natural state, if you're stressed and you're tired, you'll go more toward your masculine. And the opposite is true as well. If you're a man who's in his masculine, if you're stressed and overwhelmed, and this is chemical, like science, you'll move more to the opposite of the polarity, which kills attraction. It kills the spark. So women who are stressed and overwhelmed, which most women are these days, they are less likely to be in their feminine, vulnerable, soft place. They're kind of putting on that guard, which is super unattractive to men.
Well, y'all need to just relax.
Yeah, right. And men can help, and we can talk about that.
Yeah. When does a guy relax? When does a woman relax? When do they just both go,
And how can they support each other in both experiencing the home, right?
All right, let me hear this from the woman's perspective.
Yes, and before I say this, I'll say that this research comes from Esther Perel, the Gottman Institute, and also John Gray, some really great topics to research, especially if you're having trouble in your relationships. So, men de-stress by raising their testosterone, which is the opposite of what a lot of people think. In fact, when you talk about getting older and how men become a little grumpier, it's usually because there's a drop in testosterone. At age 50, men have half the testosterone that they did when they were younger. Again, putting them at risk for disease and depression. In fact, all men who are depressed have low testosterone. And so it's this experience of like, I'm not needed anymore and there's no purpose here. So what can really lower testosterone in men and create stress is not only being out of work, not having a purpose, not having anyone who relies on him anymore, but also being in a relationship where he feels like he cannot make his woman happy. This is the main thing when John Gray says that when couples come in,
listen close.
When couples come in, the women have this long list of complaints that they have. And for the men, it's more like, I just want her to be happy. I just want her to be who she was in the very beginning, which is never going to happen for a woman, by the way, because we are like the weather. So the first thing you need to know is that women do go through their emotional states, but when they're in that space, the man can make a huge difference to helping her lower her stress. And if he sees this as a system for helping her, he can lower his own stress by raising his testosterone because he's helping her to fix it, right? So, but one of the things to remember is that women want to feel safe, seen, and understood. This requires listening. Now, women, you need to understand that men are not built to listen to a lot of gab the way that females are. So you may need a gab partner if you like to talk things through a lot. However, men, if you are able to notice the little things in her, ask her questions about her day, truly listen, and also give her these little hits of oxytocin that are lowering her stress all the time. She should always be looking forward to oxytocin surges. And you can give her oxytocin surges by, again, like, oh, you got your hair cut. It really looks really nice. Or, let me get you a cup of coffee, or rubbing your back, or doing the little things that you would do like for Valentine's Day, a little bit all the time.
So don't walk in and go, I love your new haircut. She goes, I did it last week.
Right. Notice the little things as they come, right? And it's true about consistency, because here's the problem with the way that men think is that, okay, well, I'm going to give her a oxytocin surge. Instead of giving her one rose, I'm going to give her 24 roses. In a man's mind, and the way that the man's mind thinks is like, okay, so that's 24 times the oxytocin surge that you should get if I give you one rose. But that's not how it works in a woman's mind. Every little hit is one hit of oxytocin. You give her one rose, that's one surge of oxytocin.
One at 8 a.m.,
Right.
one at noon.
There you go. Yes.
One at 5.
So it's these little things consistently all along the way that actually do make a big difference in lowering her oxytocin.
You said something important, and we talked about, we touched on this before in
Yes.
the show. Truly listen.
Truly listening, which
Don't
she can
just-
tell if
yeah.
you're not. She can tell if you're like, and also knowing that she's not, unless she asks, she's not asking you to solve the problem, because that's the way the man's mind. And this
Right.
this can really drive a man's testosterone down, because we've talked about this too before, is that if he has a big problem that he can't solve, and he can't stop thinking about, that constitutes a big problem. And men are more emotional around big challenges. Women are more on moderate challenges. We are actually more emotional.
And they don't want to always hear us say, let me show you how to fix the problem. They'll say, I didn't ask you to fix the problem.
Exactly, because
Just
they just
listen.
want to talk it through. They know how to solve their own problems. So the weather will change on its own. You're not going to change the weather, right? But in a man's world, it's like when the weather gets really bad, tornado, whatever, in a man's world, like you got to hide, like let me get in my car and drive away. For a woman, that's abandonment. So it's almost like it's learning how to listen without wanting to solve, but just as a allowing her, containing her, allowing her this space to move through her emotions to get to the other side. This could be super powerful, because not only is it lowering her stress, which is giving her a rise in oxytocin, which not only is healthier for her, lowers her stress, but it also puts her in the mood. Women need oxytocin. We need to feel safe and seen and understood in order to have really good sex. Men love sex for lowering their stress as well. And so what happens is that she is more inclined to be in her feminine, and then he gets what he wants out of the relationship as well. Women, you need to know that men have to replenish testosterone when they have been solving problems all day, and they do that by sitting and doing nothing, playing video games, watching TV, going off and doing their own thing. Don't bother him and don't make him wrong for taking a nap on the couch, because he's replenishing testosterone, which is a very useful and needful thing for his health and happiness and well-being.
This is awesome stuff. So what advice, as we close, would you give to Brian, Ted, Kirk, Joey, basically the game at the coffee shop? I mean, I know they're listening and watching. Leave them with something poignant that they could take to the bank with.
Do what supports your masculine energy as a man and what supports your feminine energy as a woman, especially in a world where we're being pulled to opposite ends of polarities. We are still biologically attracted to, if we're super masculine, to super feminine, and vice versa. And moving the opposite direction kills attraction. So throughout the relationship, you need to create distance. So there needs to be a period of time where you're investing into yourself, a space so that you can miss each other, and a longing, but enough of a secure relationship to know that you can come back to each other, that no one's straying and unfaithful and all of that. I took a poll, and people are really concerned about faithfulness and authenticity and confidence and all of these qualities that when you're investing into yourself, you bring to the table.
That was a great topic, and I hope them guys listen at the coffee shop. We'll have more next week right here on Good Vibes.